Resident Evil 3, bare bones content. A few quick disclaimers before we start. First of all, this review is going to be really short and lacking, a bit like the game. So just to put this in perspective, I have 24 hours logged on Resident Evil 2 Remake, I have 2 playthroughs of Leon, 2 playthroughs of Claire, the Tofu and the Hunk. I cannot stomach to sit down and play another campaign of this game. It's an actual insult. One good little thing is that it saved all of my control settings from Resident Evil 2 and imported them straight into Resident Evil 3. That was actually a really nice touch. I really appreciated not having to sit down and redo all my control configurations. That was nice. So if you're a veteran to the Resident Evil series, then I highly recommend you do as this review says and don't bother picking up this game. If however you're new to the Resident Evil series, then I would actually recommend doing the opposite and going against the grain here, because the older games are relics of their time, really. You can tell they were working around all the limitations, and as such, there's an awful lot of content in there. However, most of your time can actually be spent backtracking on subsequent playthroughs until you actually optimize a route in order to actually play the game. So, if you're new to the series, I would recommend picking up the remakes. Resident Evil 2 Remake is actually amazing. Resident Evil 3 Remake is not, but it's going to be a lot harder to get your hands on a copy legally of the Resident Evil games originally. Final point here is I just want to reiterate this is going to be a short review, because if I was actually to tell you any more detail, I might as well spoil the whole damn game.
X.
Right, so let's just begin this review the way we're going to begin every other review here, and start with the specs. So as usual, I run this game on the 7700K and GTX 1080 with a 16GB of RAM. Standard stuff at this rate. So I did run the game in a mixture of medium to high, just because I was streaming the game. I didn't want to tax it and, give a bad overall viewing experience. When I wasn't streaming, I could still hit a solid 60 plus FPS on the higher settings, like an overall preset of high. I wouldn't go any further just because I don't want to, run below 60 FPS, especially on a 144Hz monitor.
Story.
So Resident Evil 3 takes place 2 months after Resident Evil 1, so it's now September in the game's timeline. You are STARS operative, STARS standing for Special Tactics and Rescue Services. You're operative Jill Valentine. After the incident in Arklay Mountains, which was Resident Evil 1, Jill gets suspended and has either been watched by Umbrella Corporation or the Raccoon City Police Department. She's unsure who it is, but she's still investigating Umbrella, as she knows that they caused the outbreak that at that very moment in time is ravaging the city. So Jill has a little nightmare sequence and then wakes up, her phone starts ringing, so she just goes to pick it up and she's told, get out of the city, we need to get out of here. Seconds later, the bioweapon gets unleashed by Umbrella and just busts through her wall. Nemesis T-Type, or Nemesis for short. The Nemesis, being the unstoppable force of nature that it is, decides it's going to chase Jill through the apartment complex and just starts breaking things, busting through walls, destroying doors, and ends up actually setting the place on fire. Jill does ultimately make it out to the street where she meets an old friend from STARS. He then, like an absolute idiot, gets a bite taken out of him, decides he's going to perish whilst allowing Jill to escape, and that's where she meets Carlos. This friend from STARS was around in Resident Evil 1 and was actually mentioned in the cutscene, so therefore, he should know what happens when these things bite. It's been 2 months, man, he should know. Carlos takes Jill underground to meet the rest of his team, the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Services, or UBCS. Carlos and the rest of his team have no idea that the company they work for are the ones that actually caused this. In fact, it's an absolute polar opposite to what Umbrella usually do. Carlos and his team only care about getting civilians out of Raccoon City using the subway system. As such, Jill gets tasked to go ahead and turn the power on for the railway system so that way they can get the train out into where it needs to be. And what's going to follow next is a grueling run through the cities being chased by the Nemesis. You're going to make pit stops in the sewers, Raccoon City Police Department, the hospital, and the Umbrella lab beneath the city. It's actually all pretty formulaic now when you think about it. The only difference between this one and previous iterations is that you get to play as a secondary character in the main storyline, without co-op.
Gameplay.
The gameplay of Resident Evil 3 is good. It's not quite on the level of Resident Evil 2 Remake, but it is still good. You have all your usual suspects such as the problem solving and the inventory expanding, but you do lose the quick escape mechanic from Resident Evil 2. I can safely say without a shadow of a doubt I failed every one of the quick escapes that it gives you in this game. Rather than banging a flashbang in their mouth or something, you've got to mash some buttons. I just tanked all that damage because I'm fucking shit. So having beat the game in such a short period of time, I can come to the easy conclusion to say this is diet Resident Evil. There's no two ways about it. This has been cut down significantly. My playtime is 4 hours 55 minutes and 1 second, and the clear time is 3 hours 30 minutes and 1 second. I spent 1 hour and 60 minutes in the pause menu Some of the more cut locations are City Hall and the offices, the Raccoon City Park, the graveyard, and even the clock tower. Though there is a mission sort of set outside the clock tower in that regard, it's not the clock tower with all the puzzles there. It's just fight the Nemesis and... well, really just fight the Nemesis, let's be honest. No, I won't lie, I died 15 times to the Nemesis. Now, that's not an awful lot, but you got to remember that he's an unrelenting force of nature. I probably could have died less had I known what I was doing half the time, but it was really only to him and in very specific areas. The main reason for that is because I did try to just kill the Nemesis every time. In killing him, you do end up getting like some little supply crates. Usually you're going to get like an upgrade for a weapon or such in there. Sometimes you do get ammo as well. But he is quite the tank. He just soaks damage up and up and up, which is to be expected of something that size when his first introduction is him kicking in your wall like the Kool-Aid man. Now, I'm going to be honest, I see the biggest issue with this game is actually the technological advancements they've been able to make. Because they were working around all the limitations of the PlayStation 1 system back in the day, it was always the fixed camera angle, so that way it could always load in a new scene. Since this is all third person now, you get to see everything as it's happening. That in turn leads to little issues where it's not as scary and it's definitely more action focused. Even the Nemesis himself, he's not as scary as he used to be. Like, even when I was a kid, I do still distinctly remember that the opening FMV to the PlayStation game was much scarier than the Nemesis is right now. It was definitely more grotesque to look at in comparison to what he is right now. Now, I get that they're trying to remake these games and bring them into more modern day and streamline them with everything else that they've done. However, Resident Evil 7 had vastly better puzzles than Resident Evil 3 does here. In fact, most of the times for the puzzles in Resident Evil 3, I stumbled upon the stuff I needed just by dumb luck. That tells you something about the puzzles there. There's no actual head scratching, there's no thinking about it, it's just you know what you have to do, it's there. These puzzles are laughable and simplistic at best. Even the puzzles in Resident Evil 2 were harder.
Performance.
So just like Resident Evil 2 last year, this game ran absolutely smooth. I did actually play just a little bit on the high settings before I realised, hold on, I'm streaming here, I'm going to dial this back just a little bit so that way there's no issues while streaming it. In regards to that, however, I didn't see any hangs, didn't see any freezies, there was no stutters. The game does only have two API options, however, and that's DirectX 11 and DirectX 12. I really would have loved to have seen some Vulkan in here. There isn't too much else to say here really. Unlike Resident Evil 2 that had like multiple different areas, this one really only has the same things going on in its same areas. It's extremely linear, and in that regard you can go one way and only one way. There's no turning round, it's just one hub area after one hub area after one hub area. The largest area is, however, definitely Raccoon City where you start. You spend about 2/3 of the game there, and then the rest is kind of spent underground. Apart from the odd fights with the Nemesis, nothing else truly really happens in regards to this. All the areas are exactly the same, nothing truly changes. There may be a fire at one point you put out and that's gone, but apart from that, it's all just static. Nothing is going to change, everything's going to run until you make it stop running. Just to kind of put this in perspective, when you go to the sewers, like there's always going to be running water. You don't stop the flow of water at any point, so the frames you're seeing in the sewers are just going to be the exact same amount of frames you get till you enter, till you leave. Nothing changes, everything's just the same.
Overall,
Now, in all honesty, I was actually struggling to rate this review. I was honestly just tempted to say, buy it and see why, and just score it from there. I wouldn't be doing any justice, so let's get into the really controversial scores that I gave this. So I gave the story a 6. They did manage to compress the story but still keep it coherent enough that we can actually know what's going on and get a rough understanding of what's happening to the city at that time. That being said, due to many things being cut and everything just actually being really quite poor, gameplay was a 2. Everything worked well, but there just wasn't enough to keep me engaged. I honestly, I don't want to play this game again. It was so boring, it's just so repetitive and so easy. If I play it again, I'm going to get it done in under 1 hour. Now, of course, that being said, performances is a straight out 10 out of 10. It worked beautifully, instantly, and I didn't even need to update my drivers. Everything looked beautiful, worked beautiful, played beautiful, and I got over 100 FPS whilst playing, even on the highest setting, so that's a fucking 10. No two ways about it, chief. Do the math and this comes out at a very average 6 out of 10. That's 6 plus 2 plus 10 divided by 3. So like I said at the beginning, if you are an old fan of the game, it's probably best you maybe pick this up on sale. If not, then don't pick it up at all. But if you're new, then by all means pick this up. It's going to be harder to pick up Resident Evil 3, legitimately for PlayStation. unless you emulate, but that's entirely up to you. There's also no reason to get this game over Resident Evil 2, as they both take place at exactly the same time. Since someone like me who's played, the originals as well, I don't feel this game does it much justice, as I have memories that have been tainted. However, you don't. So, just to cap this off really quickly, if you haven't played the original trilogy, then go ahead and pick up the original trilogy remastered, as it's decent enough. If you have, however, played the original trilogy, then 2, definitely good to pick up. 3, not so much. 1, I'm pretty sure just an updated GameCube port anyway. So that about wraps it up, guys. Well, thank you very much for watching, and once again, don't feel pressured into liking, comment, or subscribing. It's a free world, do whatever the fuck you want, but anything you do would be appreciated. I'll catch you in a bit, sugar.